Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the TamaraTamu Collective, where dreams have no filter. This episode, we're going to talk about how using our creativity pushes us beyond survival mode and into thriving and into an identity that is constantly thriving every single day. Okay, so if you have been listening to me, you know that I tie in creativity in the words that we speak, our affirmations, what we say about ourselves, what we say about our lives. All of that is intertwined because in order for us to think beyond, to speak beyond what we see, it takes imagination. It takes being creative. All right. It takes us tapping into that creative power to do so. Let's get into this episode. So I am going to give an example. I'm going to start this off with a story. So I was listening to an individual say this following phrase, which I cringe when I hear it. This person said, "I don't like what I do, but I don't have a choice." End quote. Quote, "I don't like what I do, but I don't have a choice." End quote. All right. And that person was referring to the work that they do. They didn't even call it a career. It was just this job that they were tied into for almost a year upon year after year after year. And the thing is, it's a contract, but it's an extended contract that this person has continued to sign on year after year. They don't like it. And you could see when that person said, "I don't like this," you could feel and you could see the distress on their face. And then they said, "But I don't have a choice." So the reason I'm bringing this up is because this ties into what we say first and foremost. All right. So, number one, with that statement, that person has cut off and severed any possibility beyond those words. They have cut off their imagination. They've cut off any opportunity. It's just they've canceled it out because they have told themselves they have existed in the identity of not liking what they do and not having a choice to live beyond that. So when I just said they've cut off the possibility of allowing the universe to propel that person into a life of desire instead of simply occupying space and observing others living and being and existing in abundance. And the thing is, and I know that it's tough for this person because he is working in an environment where he is seeing people swimming, eating, dancing, drinking, exploring new cultures, exploring the islands, taking pictures, just really existing in a space of joy, buying art, buying whatever. And it may not be that person for this individual that I'm speaking about, for him, abundance may not be perhaps buying things, but just to be in a space where he's observing, and he's observing people, he's observing families, he's observing friends, laughing, and just being so carefree where they don't have a care in the world. And he's exposed to that constantly. And if he would just, if that person could tap into their creativity, if they, just even a little bit, even at, doesn't even have to be a full percent, but just a little bit, if they could just tap into, he has no idea how the universe would send people to him, because he's surrounded by people all the time. Even when he doesn't want to be, even there's no way that he can't avoid being around other people. And he has no idea of the opportunities that are around him to propel him beyond this survival mode that his own words has him in bondage in. So, at the top of this video, I talked about how we're going to uncover how to use creativity to get us into thriving mode. Well, first, let's talk about the difference between observing versus living. So, I touched on this a little bit already. When you are when you are not really living, but you're just observing, that is survival mode. That is a surviving identity where you're watching other people. And the thing is, you're seeing what's possible. You're seeing what's available to you. But for some reason, you've told yourself that it's not possible for you. So you've taken on this identity of, well, I guess this is how it's going to be. I don't have a choice. I don't like what I'm doing as a job. Even though I'm seeing what I want, the freedom that I want, I see other people living it. But I don't have a choice. That's observing versus living equals survival mode. That is what we sometimes find ourselves in, which keeps us from that highest vision that we have for ourselves. Now, how is that different from living? Well, I'm going to talk about it as soon as I take a drink of my iced coffee. Okay, so when we're living, that means to tap into our God self. Okay, I know that might be hard for some of you guys to hear, but listen. When I say our God self, I'm talking about our divinity, all right? Our divinity, our ability to co-create, all right? Our alchemical selves, where the creative mysteries reside within our bodies, waiting for us to access it, to pull it out, for it to be expressed through us. So how do we access it? How do we access those creative mysteries? Well, I've talked about this before. We ask big questions. For example, if we go back to, let me go back to this individual that has told himself that he can't stand what he does, but he doesn't have a choice. He has not stopped to ask himself, well, what would that look like if I was working in a way where I could still create the income to take care of my responsibilities and have more than enough have more than enough money to enjoy, to live in freedom that I want, to do the things that I want to do. So the question that he could ask is, what would that look like if he was working in a way that he enjoyed, that allowed him to create the physical money to pay for vacations, to where he could spend time with his children, his family. Oh, and I forgot to mention, yes, he feels like he doesn't have a choice because of his responsibility of a family, which I understand. That's another thing that, or I don't want to say trap, because having a family, having children is not a trap. But somehow we get into this box of, well, I can either enjoy what I do while also creating income and creating wealth, and I can spend time with my family. I can have both. So going back to this individual, he's told himself that he can't have both, and he can. All right, so another big question that he could ask himself is, well, first, this will be the first question. Do I believe that instead of me being tied to this almost a year contract, doing something I don't like, instead of spending 9 months out of the year that I could spend in complete joy, that I can do the things that I love to do and be in complete joy, do I believe that that's a possibility for me? That's not, I don't want to get into this on this video, but my perspective is that there are so many of us who don't really believe that a life beyond where we're at, that another way of existing in more abundance, in more joy is even possible for us. Some of us don't even believe that. So those questions, those big questions, are questions that he could ask himself. That right there, just allowing yourself to ask those types of questions, that could be the incremental step to get you beyond your survival identity and to push you into thriving. That takes creativity to do that, because you're just allowing yourself, you're allowing those questions just to flow. You're allowing them to flow, whether you are saying them out loud, whether you are thinking about those questions, whether you're writing them down. And I would suggest, another side note, that if you are in this space of where you know there's more for you, you feel it, you know it, I would invite you to not only write the questions out, but ask the questions out loud. There's something about your voice, hearing yourself ask those questions. So what does asking those questions do? What's the purpose of it, of asking those questions? Well, first, like I mentioned, you tap into the creative mysteries that are in your DNA. Why do I keep calling them mysteries? Because that's what they are. If you haven't tapped into them yet, it's a mystery to you. So to ask those questions, it's like turning on a switch. It activates something within you. It activates that creative power that you don't have to look for. It's already there. It's just lying dormant because we forgot. So asking those questions is a light switch. It is activating that creative power. It also asking those questions upgrades your consciousness. So it leads you into a new way of being. So what did I say at the beginning? Moves you beyond survival identity, pushes you into, now I'm thriving. I'm thriving. Every day I'm thriving. It awakens you and it lets your guides know that you are really ready to live, not just survive, not just observe, but you're ready to live and you're ready to thrive. Then what happens? A lot of us, over time, the universe will send signs through people, will send signs through something we're reading, will send messages that we would call, oh, that's just a coincidence. Or we just simply don't even see it as a coincidence. We just bypass it. It just goes over our head. But then when you flip on that switch, what starts to happen is that all of those coincidences, those things that we pushed to the side and ignored because we were in survival mode, we totally missed it. Now, because our consciousness has been upgraded, now we can recognize those incidences as synchronicities. We can recognize those incidences as answers to those questions that we've been asking. See how that works? So that is how we can use our creativity to get us from a survival identity to thriving. All right. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions for me. I do have a new offering that I want to tell you really quick about. It is a booklet that I put together. It's got over 100 affirmations in there. Very powerful. These are affirmations that I still use daily. Do I say every single one of them daily? No. There are some that I have meditated on for a full year. Sorry, I'm getting a call. So I want to offer that to you. The description, it's a downloadable document. And so immediately you can download it. It's sent to your email. The description or the link is in the description box. It's called Cast Your Spell. Because when you speak, that's what you're doing. You are solidifying what is in your life. So until next time, cheers.